Hey guys, welcome back to Black Nerds Matter. I'm your host, Diedrich Davis. Today's guest is someone who's deeply committed to ocean conservation, community building, and communicating science in powerful and accessible ways. Mark Losavio is a conservation policy manager for the Aquarium Conservation Partnership, or ACP, where he shapes strategies that advance critical conservation goals. He's also been a longtime supporter and board member of Black and Marine Science. We've had a few members of them on our show as well, uplifting the voices and visibility of Black marine scientists around the world. Mark holds degrees in marine science and marine biology from the University of South Carolina and Northeastern University. He currently lives in Norfolk, Virginia, also known as the Mermaid City. Outside of his policy and science work, Mark is an avid diver, storyteller, and even a weekend comedian. Ooh, comedian on board. I'm excited for that. Proving that science and personality are far from mutually exclusive. We're excited to have him here today to talk about his journey, his passion for making science more inclusive, and maybe even his Animal Crossing villagers. Let's welcome Mark Losavio to the show.
Hey everybody, it's a absolute pleasure to be here. I've wanted to be on this show for a long time now, and I'm glad to finally make it.
Okay, so how's that intro for you? I've been practicing that the last day.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Sweet. Yeah, we've ran into each other a few times from BIMS. I'm just excited to hear about your journey. Something we've ever got time to actually sit down and talk about it. You know how busy the conferences can be, and you're moving everywhere, talking to everyone. So I'm glad we had some one-on-one time now. So I want to start off from the beginning. What got you into science, and was there a moment or experience that sparked your interest in marine biology?
So I feel like I've just always really been into science since I was a little kid. So I don't know if there's any one moment, but I will say, so I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, which, as you know, is pretty far away from the ocean. So there's not a lot to expose me to marine sciences, but when my parents bought the house that they were going to move into, for whatever reason, my mom had hired a local high school student to paint the second floor of our house where me and my brothers were going to live. And so this high school student chose to paint like a tropical rainforest. And what she did was she painted like a beach on the top of the stairwell and then made like an ocean in the stairwell. So it was like the bottom of the ocean right when you open the door. And I don't know why I was obsessed with that area of the house. I was always playing on the stairs. It was really, really dangerous. But because of that, like random high school student and her art project, that's what made me obsessed with the ocean.
Okay, so I'm wondering, so Kentucky, uh, what was family life like for you, and just growing up there? You said you had brothers. Are they scientists as well? I kind of want to know about what your home life was prior to getting into science.
Yeah. So my brothers, so my oldest brother is more of a linguist. So he is on the humanities side of sciences, and he has his PhD. He works in Vietnam right now, I think, with English as a second language. And then my other brother is does stuff that I don't really know about, but it he works with Mastercard, international business, things that are very successful that I could never. But yeah, and then my mom was a journalist for the local news station. My dad was a professor at the local university. So, and my only other family member that's like a scientist, I guess, like me, is my mom's sister. She's a biologist.
Okay, cool. So what was your family's reaction when you decided you wanted to do marine biology? And like, I'm sure you've told them the story about, oh, I saw the tropical rainforest and it inspired me. What did they think about that and about your career choice?
Honestly, I don't think they were super duper surprised, just because I've been so obsessed with it for such a long time. And actually, when I was in high school, I'd gotten a job at the local exotic pet store because that was the closest thing I could get to working at an aquarium, was like selling tropical fish to people. So it was no surprise. It's kind of a running joke in my family that they never have any idea where in the world I am, because I'm like always traveling to some new field site or something like that.
That's cool. I have a similar thing with my family now, and just planning trips or whatever. They're like, well, we don't know if you're gonna be here or you're gonna be there. And even for my job right now, like I travel or I'll be on project for a few months or whatever at a time. I mean, at the house, my parents' house right now, I may be here 2 3 months out of the year, if that. It just depends on what's going on. So I can totally understand that point of view.
Yeah, and I had briefly worked on a project with white sharks. And my mom had made a rule for me to like never tell her about what I'm doing until I'm like done with the project so she doesn't stress about it while I'm out there, which is fair.
So how has traveling that much, how has that impacted you as a person and just life, relationships, and all those kind of different things? Because I've heard some people be, oh, this has strained my relationship with people so much, and other people were, oh, this has made my relationship with people so much better. So what boat are you in when it comes to that?
Well, so I've been with the person I've been with for about 13 years, so I guess I'm in the relationship better category. Um, and but it is a challenge to kind of have to uproot all the time, especially because in this career field, it's not always super easy to get a job. So you're usually a little bit more willing to like actually move to a different location of the country or planet to get a job, which is kind of really hard to deal with because it's also difficult to sort of establish a community in the place where you live. Um, but I will say that getting one of the traveling is kind of the biggest perk to me, I think, in this career because as you know, you don't get the big money bucks in the marine biology or any kind of marine science career field, but you do get to see parts of the planet that people will never get to, which I think is a fair trade.
Absolutely. I think the biggest point, like I've made to people is that, well, I don't necessarily have to pay for vacation because when I'm working, I feel like I'm on vacation or going wherever the case may be. So, piggybacking off that, what are some of your favorite locations you've been to and some of the cooler things you've seen? I know you've been to Spain. I know you talked about the sharks, the white sharks. I want to know more.
So the White Sharks was a project I did in college. It was like a study abroad kind of thing in South Africa, which was super cool. Um, and which which ranks up there in my top three. And for grad school, actually, I did my master's research project in southeastern China with Xiamen University, and their like new lab in Dongshan, which is kind of not far away from the southern tip of Taiwan on the mainland. And that was a really cool place. It was super super hot and like tropical and like humid, which is my favorite kind of weather. And the the like sea creatures that we could find while tide pooling were so different than what I could find on like the United States East Coast, and just like blew me away. It was so cool. And then also in grad school, we spent a portion of our like classwork helping the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute do their coral reef monitoring work, uh, which was in Bocas del Toro, Panama, and that is probably another one of my favorite places because it's beautiful there. The reefs there are well were some of the healthiest back then. I'm not sure what their status is now, but it was really cool.
Okay, so black man living in China. You have to tell me about that experience. What was that like? I mean, you talked about the weather, but just culturally, that's really cool. I mean, yeah, I'm excited to hear about that.
So I was in China for I want to say 3 or 4 months, and it okay. So I that was actually my second time in China. I took Chinese in high school as like my language because everybody had to pick a second language, and didn't want to do Spanish, wasn't into German. I thought Chinese is cool. Like, let's try that. I love the food. And so I did that all 4 years of high school. And at the end, you take a high school trip to China. First of all, nations for whoever organized that. I could not imagine bringing 20 plus high school boys to any foreign country, let alone one on the other side of the planet. And so that was like, okay, careful now, but like 20 to 15 years of a gap between my first trip in China to my second trip in China. And like the difference was crazy how time had passed. Um, but in terms of my graduate school time there, uh, we were the first project in that brand new lab that they had built. So it was basically just me and one other scientist in that entire facility. And it was a huge laboratory. No one else was there. There was no staff, there was no students, there was absolutely nothing. Completely empty buildings. They weren't even necessarily done finished building it yet. So it was just me, one other scientist, and like the security guard who would sometimes cook me dinner. We were best friends. And so it was actually sort of kind of isolated in a little bit because the lab was like a 15-minute drive away from the town. There were like no grocery stores nearby. I could go on runs and like run 30 minutes in one direction or the next direction and see like tourists taking pictures on the beach, but not really anything else. So I didn't really have a whole lot of interaction with people. But um, the people I did hang out with, sometimes the that other lab tech would like bring his friends and we'd go to the beach, or they treated me like, I was one of their homies, which I really appreciated. They showed me all the best pot spots to get the best food in town. We did like really great Mongolian food. It was fun.
Okay, and that was for your master's. So sound like you had an awesome experience in your master's. How was getting it? Like what motivated you to get your master's, and
So
how was the process of doing it?
it was and it was a lot of fun. And you're right, uh, it was expensive. So I did treat it like it was a very expensive, very stressful vacation because the program that I did was the Three Cs program for Northeastern University. And what that is a kind of super condensed field work and class based master's. So it's like 2 semesters of classwork and then sort of 2 semesters of like a thesis project that you do. So they really condense a lot of work into those first 2 semesters, where you don't really see like the light of day, almost literally sometimes, because the first half you are spending it in Massachusetts and their lab is an old World War II bunker. So you sometimes go in and never ever see the sunlight for days at a time because of how short the days are in the wintertime. And the reason why I went for my master's and chose that school specifically is because right before that, I did a year of AmeriCorps with the New England Science and Sailing Foundation. And AmeriCorps is this cool federal program that I don't know what the status of is at the moment, uh, where you go and it's kind of like the Peace Corps. You go and do service in a community in the United States. And after that, you receive an education award and a lot of other really cool little perks that you do for serving in that community. So Northeastern University has a free application for people who did AmeriCorps. So I was like, okay, I'll apply. I applied, got in, used my education award to help pay for that master's program, and that's where I ended up.
Oh, that's sweet. I never knew of the benefits people got from doing Peace Corps or AmeriCorps or any of those kind of things. So that's awesome. I'm sure that some of the people listening may find that as a like viable path to go down. It seems like it's working for you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I want to know what makes you a nerd. I talked a little bit about Animal Crossing. I know you're a marine scientist, but tell me about what makes Mark a nerd.
Um, that's a tough question because I like a lot of things. And so lately, they just, or not just, but I just finished the remake of Final Fantasy VII, or the rebirth, the second one of those 2 games. And it was good. Like I had a lot of fun. And as someone who played the original version, like way back in the dark ages, it like really scratched that nostalgia itch, like just right. It has made me really want to go back and play all of those old games from my childhood that like that basically formed who I am right now. Like the old Final Fantasies like 7, 8, 9, and 10, and like Jet Set Radio and Space Channel 5, like that old Sonic Adventure games that were like super, super buggy, but just like have that special place in my heart. That's I think what I would rank on the top of my list right now that I'm currently obsessed with.
Okay, so what console did you grow up playing?
I grew up playing all the hand-me-downs for my older brothers, but I guess the one that I played the most was the old Dreamcast.
Okay, mine
Rest in peace.
mine was a PlayStation 2. That was the first one I had played, and I have so many memories playing games with my dad and my brother, and my dad still comes up to me when I'm doing something like working on my computer, and he'll be, help me daddy," because that's what I used to always say when I was playing Crash Bandicoot or Sly Cooper or something. I couldn't understand what was going on. I think it's funny, like now people have playthroughs they can watch, whatever, they can look up stuff online. I had no such thing. So if I was
Hmm.
stuck on a game, like it took me, I think the game Crash Bandicoot Twin Sandy, it took me 7 years to beat that. I think I started it when I was like six or so. No, I started when I was
Oh my
seven,
gosh.
and I think I didn't finish it until I was 14. And I had to go back, and like this is the time PS4 is already out, PS3 and all this stuff's already out, and I was like, I gotta bring this out and finish this game.
You know, that is also part of the reason why I've been kind of going back and playing those old games, because I never ever beat any of the final. I beat Final Fantasy X because maybe when I started that game, I was old enough to know what I was doing, but I had to go back like this year and finally beat 8 and 9 and see what the endings were, because I never wanted to spoil myself. But yeah, I totally get you. Whenever I would play with my brother, I would just like watch him as the younger brother, in the corner, like away. And he would get stuck pretty frequently. And I would be like, hey, wait, like that lever over there is like shining red. Like, what does that do? And not to take credit, but I helped him get through a lot of the games that he was playing back when we were kids.
I'm sure my brother will have similar stories. I think I spent most of my time unplugging his controller so he would think that he's actually playing, and then we're both just, he's 3 or 4, has no idea what's actually going on. But yeah, I'm sure he has similar stories like that for me. I just think that I feel like as you get older, you'll start playing those games again. You're like, how the hell do they expect a 6 or 7 year old to do this? Because I'm sitting there like I'm in high school at the time, and I'm like, this is still hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so transitioning a bit, you've had a cool mix of experiences like diving, comedy, science communication. Have these different parts of your identity shape the way you approach your work?
So I used to think that kind of marine biology and marine science, honestly, I used to think that like any job required like a very strict set of like accomplishments or tasks that you have to complete in a certain way, and then you land up in that role. But now, given my pretty diverse background, I realize that that is not only is that not true, it might even be like a hindrance in the field of marine science. That everybody does the exact same thing and gets to the exact same place. Because then when you do that, everybody has the same thoughts and the same methods when they tackle a problem. And so, for instance, my job now is something that if you like read the job posting on LinkedIn or something like that, you would think, oh, like a lawyer would be good for this, or a former congressional aide would be good for this. But because I bring an accessible communications background and like grassroots experience, I approach this role from a such different angle that we're tackling problems from a completely different way. And I think that is something, especially nowadays, is really necessary in any job, is being able to look at something from a different point of view.
Absolutely, because I feel like even when it comes to applying to jobs, whatever, I mean, like as you alluded to earlier, it's hard to get a job in the field. I was really struggling when I first got out of school. But when you have the same experience as everyone else, and for instance, everyone has a good GPA and you don't have research experience, you haven't talked to people or done extracurricular things, it's okay. But there's a million other people who have a GPA as good as you who have done this extra thing or done whatever the case may be. And I feel like it's really hard to, like when you're in school, nobody necessarily tells you that. I was lucky to have somebody tell me that, hey, internships matter. A degree from Eckerd is not going to be enough to get a job. You need to do more. And I was like, okay, let me jump on this. Let me apply everywhere. Go here, 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 and there. But I think if you don't know that stuff, you have like there's not like you don't know what to do until later on, and then it's hard to catch up if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's really hard for people like us who don't see a lot of representation in this field, because that also means we don't have a ton of mentors. So there isn't always someone who's going to go up to you in college and say, look, a good GPA is not going to cut it. You have to do other things to make yourself look attractive. I I I didn't necessarily get that message when I was in undergrad. I was lucky to just like wrap myself up in a whole bunch of other things. Um, but not everybody gets that message. Not everybody gets that mentorship, which is one of the reasons why I think BIMS is such an important organization. Is that we can kind of help bridge that gap for some people.
Okay, so self plug with BIMS. I see the BIMS shirt. Tell me about your involvement, how you became a board member, all that.
Sorry, can you say that again?
No, I said so. I said you had a self plug right there. The BIMS T-shirt. You talked about. Um, you said talked about BIMS. Tell me how you became a board member and how that all came about.
Yeah. So, as probably you know, BIMS kind of started with a tweet in 2020, I think, and I was just one of the people who retweeted that. It was Dr. Moore tweeting, "All right, who is in marine science? Like, where are the Black in marine science at?" And everybody started retweeting that with like, I'm right here, like me." And so I had just been a part of the organization since it started, go to the meetings, participate in the events that they had, and eventually um, they saw that. And when they were forming the organization as a 501c, they needed a board. Um, my name just like floated into the pool, and I volunteered to help organize that. And so that's where I am now.
So how
Gosh, that was like 5 years ago.
how are you able to balance your responsibilities as a BIMS board member and your current position?
I'll be honest, it's not easy because it's a lot, and especially nowadays when there's a lot of struggle both in both areas, honestly. Um, but it helps to have people both like at my job and on the board that kind of have my back and make it a little easier. When you are sort of working towards something that makes you feel good inside, gives you like warm, gooey feeling. It makes it a little easier to kind of stay at my desk a few hours every day after work to get it done.
So what's the impact you hope to have on the world doing the things that you're doing in marine science? Like you said, the board with BIMS, ACP. What is the greater overall goal for you, and what are you planning to do with your career going forward?
Uh, that's a hard question. I guess for me, my goal is to kind of, I don't know about granting access, because to me, like, this planet is an ocean planet, and everybody has a right to experience and enjoy the ocean. Um, and I don't think it's fair that other people can erode or supersede that right for their own means, for in destroying it or extracting it for their own means. So I guess in my perfect world, everybody has a right to experience and learn about this big, beautiful resource that only a few people kind of get unfettered access to at the moment. And maybe that's my I mean, that's my like big pipe dream is that like everybody both learns of and loves the ocean as much as I do. Um, and I don't know what my future career goals would be with that in mind. I guess I've always kind of wanted to be sort of like Bill Nye the Science Guy or Neil deGrasse Tyson, but like for the ocean. Um, but that's the most solid object I can form in my brain right now.
No, I totally understand. Like I said, that's just thinking about that, trying to make things equitable, helping people out with science. I know that can be just a lot. And then you mentioned working with BIMS and working with the ACP that you're working with now. How do you take care of yourself and do things that are good for you and make time for yourself? Like I even want to hear about the comedy club and some of the things you do for fun because I know that that's a very important part of who people are. Like we're not just scientists or workers here at Black Nerds Matter. We're people too. I think it's important to highlight that aspect.
Uh, so I am I one of the other things that I think has really helped me out in my career journey is that I really like to be around people. I'm very much the opposite of an introvert. Um, I like to talk to people. I like to talk to people about the ocean. I like to talk to people about BIMS. I just like to talk to people and be around people. So I when I moved to Virginia for my NOAA job that I don't have anymore, I it was like right in the middle of COVID, lockdown, like don't go out 6 feet apart, and I was like, dang, like this is not super fun. I'm going to sign up for an improv class in my local comedy theater to meet people in this area, to make friends and to talk. And it's honestly, this is a good class to take if you want to get better at public speaking anyways. Like that's just a piece of advice, like take an improv class because it helps you with public speaking. I did the class, met a bunch of really great people that I'm still friends with today, joined a Dungeons and Dragons group like from that first class that
Wow.
I still do today. Um, and I guess now I still help do this weekend I'm actually in a sketch show where I was for some reason unrelated cast in two sketches as Satan. So I'm learning my lines for that, which you know what? Why not? It'll be fun. I get to wear my red suit and I'm going to have a blast. So that I think has really helped getting to go down to the theater and just have fun because ultimately like I don't get paid to do comedy or anything. I just go up on stage and so I don't necessarily care so much if people are laughing. I'm just having fun, kind of hanging out with my friends and making each other laugh. And that is kind of what powers me for the rest of the week. It just so happens that the rest of the city is also laughing when we are.
So tell me what that's like to do improv, to get into that and just the feeling you have on stage. Because for me, I think I'm funny personally, but I don't know if somebody could tell me, hey, I want you to go tell a joke. Like for me, it's more situational. Like I gotta feel the right thing. Like if I sat up there and had to, okay, tell us one. I don't know if I could. Like, how do you learn
Okay,
that?
see, what you're describing, like, hey, tell us a joke, that is stand up. That's a different skill that I don't have. What you're
Okay.
talking about is being in this situation, that is improv. And that is it's not something where someone can just like command you to do improv on the spot. I mean, if they did, it would be weird. Um, but it's like a team sport versus like a solo sport. Like I don't know. I'm not good at sports like soccer versus golf or whatever. Uh, but in like the and they'll tell you this if you go take a class, but like the number one rule of improv is to make your partner look good. So if you go out, and this is like the skill that you take away that you apply in every other aspect of your life, in your relationship, your marriage, at work. If you're giving a presentation, it does not matter what happens. As long as you make each other look good, you will get out of that situation better. So as long as you're making your partner look good on stage, it will end up being funny, or it it will at least not be bad. And that's like the number one skill. So you go out, and one of the other things I like about improv that's not like stand up is that there is no preparation, right? It's improv. You can't prepare, you can't practice, you can't have anything with you. You have to all make it up on the spot, which means that I don't have to worry about forgetting stuff. I don't have to worry about messing up my lines or anything because I you can't practice. You make it up on the spot, which I really like because I don't have time to memorize a bunch of lines.
Okay, yeah, because I met someone when I was recently living in California for my job, and I met someone who was actually doing like stand up classes. Her name was Megan. Shout out Megan. But she was telling me all about doing those classes and everything, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to pay to tell people jokes. Like the class costs money and all that. So I was like, I feel like I make my friends laugh for free. So I don't really know if I want to actually like do that. I feel like that would be kind of like if someone did laugh at my joke, like that would hurt my feelings. And I was like, that. I feel like that'd be hard to do stand up. So when you're saying improv, you're just kind of y'all are having fun and people are watching it and laughing. I feel like that's more my speed because it's more like you can bounce off of someone else. When I gotta just sit up there and oh hey whatever, I'm no Dave Chappelle. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather do the physical comedy and stuff like that if I have to
Mhm.
make someone laugh on stage or whatever the case may be.
Well, so the on the flip side of that is like stand up, you have much more control, right? Like whatever you want to make the joke is like that's you have control. Like you've written it out. You and one of the things is you test it. You go to open mics, you go to bars, and you test it out. What doesn't work, you get rid of. What does work, you keep. For improv, if someone comes out on stage and they're like, wow, you are the biggest sea turtle I've ever seen. That's it. You are now a sea turtle in that scene. You have to make that work. So you have a little bit less control over what happens in the scene, and you have to be okay with that and be flexible with it. So I would still recommend taking the class, but I think, and I haven't done stand up, but I think it's improv is more like fun, and you just learn. There are other small like tips and tricks to improv, like saying no isn't something that you want to do a whole lot in an improv scene, just because it kind of kills the momentum. Or asking a bunch of questions doesn't lead to a really funny set either. Sometimes it does, but like there are other small little things that you learn when you take those classes, like
Okay.
physicality.
Okay. I was something I'm glad you brought up joining like the comedy club as when you move to a new city or trying something new to make friends because I recently took up rock climbing because I wanted to do something physical because I got bored of lifting weights and also meet people and I in doing that has helped me out so much just like anytime I go to a new city or whatever I join that then I'm able to meet people and whatever just because as an adult and how you were saying how we were talking about before with traveling it was really hard for me to make friends in places I was at because I wouldn't be there long enough to actually like meet people naturally, whatever. I'm usually working most of the time. And if I'm not working, I'm at the beach or diving or do something else with marine scientists. And for me, I was like, I want to meet people that aren't doing what I'm doing because I don't always want to talk about sharks or the water or whatever.
Hmm.
I love that
Hmm.
stuff, but I want to talk about just random day to day stuff or hear about somebody. Like I want to hear about someone's server job or what they're doing as an architect, whatever the case may be. I feel like it's awesome to find something that you really like and then able to branch and make a new network from it.
And that kind of goes back to the different experiences kind of like make you more of a whole person, because in that same vein, I I was just on a team last season. They do it in seasons, I guess, uh, with someone who is like an artist at the local like art museum, and she is trying to organize a parade float for a parade that happens later in the summer. And she's like, "Oh, I want to do an ocean theme, and I want you to help me out with it." Which now I get to kind of combine my worlds into like she is kind of combining her world into my ocean world, and I'm combining into her art world. And that's not something that would ever happen if I just hung out with my aquarium homies all the time. So that's I 100% agree with you, is that's how you build a community, is when you interact with people who are different from yourself.
I was wondering if you've had this similar experience, but when I find I hang out with people outside of marine science, I always feel like my work is so cool and so novel because they're like, "Oh my God, you to do that! Like you're going here, you're going to this place. Like this is so cool." And it makes me realize, oh, what I do really is that cool. Because when I'm hanging out with marine science people, obviously it's, oh, I went to Palau, I went to French Polynesia, I went to like it's so regular, run of the mill. Like I feel like it's almost like when I'm at a conference, sometimes it's not special what I'm doing because we're all doing similar things. So it's just, oh, well, that's no different from, oh, I walked my dog yesterday. Like that's the same kind of thing. We're sharing pictures. Like it's cool. But man, people who don't do this kind of stuff, when they are so excited about it, it makes me so happy. And I'm like, yeah, I want to show you pictures. Let's do all this. I think that part's really cool.
No, I 100% agree. Like that's anytime anyone makes a fish joke, like everybody in the theater will turn to look at me to verify. It is you're right, it is nice to kind of feel special, because when I'm around other marine scientists, I'm just another marine scientist. But it's really like when someone sends me a picture of like the most basic fish, like a striper or just a blue crab. And they're like, "What is this? I found it at the beach." And I'm like, "Oh, I got you." Like I'm some sort of expert. It really is a big, it's a booster for sure.
Oh yeah, my brother will be like, DJ, what's this? And it'll send me a picture of something or show me, or it'll just be, or if somebody gets bitten by a shark or something happens to somebody at the beach, they'll, hey, look at this. I'm like, yeah, cool. So it's just it becomes fun to be the local nature or ocean guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if there's a funny meme that's making the rounds and it's got something to do with the ocean, I love keeping track. Like I'll start a timer from the first time I'll see it, then I'll get it sent by this person and then this person and then someone else will send it, and then by like person number 6 they'll be like, "I'm sure you've seen this, but I had to send it to you." And I'm like, "It's fine. Keep them coming."
Absolutely. So I wanted to transition a bit into talking about work again. But so I'm wondering, how was your journey from marine science starting in undergrad to becoming a conservation policy manager? Like, were there any unexpected detours or moments along the way that were just, oh man, I have no idea what's going on, you know?
I sort of operate a lot of my life in that space of not knowing what's going on. But after undergrad, so right after undergrad, I did an internship at a small nature conservancy in Nantucket, Massachusetts called the Mariah Mitchell Association. They do a really great aquarium internship where they hire four interns, to just run the aquarium for the entire summer. That like they do the events, they stock the aquariums and clean them, and work with local fishers to find weird fish or release them as needed. After that, it was like 4 or 5 months, and it was very short, but it turns out to have been a very impactful part of my career, because after that I then like worked in an ecotoxicology lab back at my undergraduate um, institution, the University of South Carolina. Did that for maybe 2 or 3 years, before in 2017, where there were massive cuts to the National Science Foundation that cut the grant I was working on, and I
Wow.
lost my job. So I that is what I decided to go do AmeriCorps. I'm going to be honest. When I applied to that AmeriCorps position, and this most AmeriCorps, I feel like most of them are like teaching service related positions. There are other roles, but I think those are a lot of the ones that I've seen have been teaching related. This one was specific with the New England Science and Sailing Foundation because it was like ocean based. You're teaching ocean activities and skills. You're teaching kids how to sail and kayak. And so I applied. I was like, that's cool. I can do those things. I was almost immediately accepted because I was the only applicant who was a black male. And they had the community that they were serving was like a traditionally underserved community in Connecticut, and like 90% black. And they were like, we don't have anybody on our team who looks like the people we serve. So I was like, I don't even think they looked at the rest of my application. They just saw my picture and they're like, good, pick this man. Uh, did that for a year, used those skills and the award to do my master's program. I graduated from my master's program in December of 2019. So 3 months later is when the whole world shut down from COVID. That obviously is a challenging place to enter a job market. But after some some struggles, and I did a part-time job at like an outdoor education, the Kestrel Adventures. I got a role with NOAA, which for I guess back in my day, working with NOAA was like that was it. Like that was the job. It's like regular people wanting to work for NASA, working for NOAA is like what is your ultimate dream for a lot of marine biologists and marine scientists. So I got a job working for the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries at NOAA, which required me to move down here to Hampton Roads because I was working with the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary and the Mallows Bay Potomac River National Marine Sanctuary. I did that for about 3 years. And that was a job that was actually kind of a struggle in terms of I guess, like the office culture there,
Hmm.
and like government budget cuts and all that jazz. And so that was a role that I left. Uh, Gosh, I'm losing my dates now. Whatever. I left it after some time. And I was on the job hunt for several months. And during that job hunt, as part of the tidal wave with BIMS, we went to Spain, right? You remember this? And we went to Spain to attend the United Nations Ocean Climate Conference, which was in Barcelona. And we, showed up, wore our BIMS jackets. Everyone loved us. It was a great time. There, I met the executive director for the Aquarium Conservation Partnership. We had a conversation. I'm assuming she liked what I had to say. She was like, hey, apply for this job we have down the line. I think you might be a good fit for it. And so that is how I ended up here with the Aquarium Conservation Partnership. And I consider myself very lucky because I love this job.
Okay, sweet. So I'm wondering how you've been able to, like, the resilience and the perseverance you've had to navigate jobs during all these different times. So for instance, now with the new administration and that affecting BIMS, and then with COVID and trying to get a new move into a new state and all that, how have you been able to roll with the punches, so to speak, when it comes to all these changes in like the world surrounding your life?
So honestly, having such a strong network is kind of what keeps me sane. So in COVID, my fiance and I mean, and the rest of the world, it I don't know if it helped, but it didn't feel as bad when the whole world was just as struggling as I was in lockdown. Um, but I did have like BIMS to kind of hold my back there for that. And during that time between NOAA and ACP, again, I had BIMS. I was able to go to Spain, which I was considering not going because why would I go? I don't have a job. I'm not doing anything with my life right now. But I went and went with the goal of making connections for BIMS to try and like help with the fundraising and all that jazz. And so I think having that strong network, and that's why I'm working so hard now to build one here, like at the theater, um, because that is what I think, especially in really rocky times as this, it's a different kind of struggle for I think our country. So making, especially because there are deliberate attempts to sort of divide and isolate and turn people into clustered, isolated silos, that establishing a strong network, a strong community is really, really important. And it's hard too. It's very difficult now, especially when things cost more money than they did before. It's hard to do this, especially because there's not a lot of places you can go where you don't have to, where you can just be with your friends and family. So it's hard, and I don't know if I have an answer other than your local public library, but that's what I think I has gotten me through the tough times.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm glad you shared a bit with them. I'm sure other people empathize with what's going on, what you were talking about, just because it seemed like a lot of time, like especially like the last 5 years or so, it's been a lot of things that are outside of the general population's control. Just something happens, it's like, oh, you lose this. Like I've had friends that have lost big jobs that they really loved because of COVID, or had to, or had become unhoused because of that, and different things like that. And then you have this new uh, administration coming in, and then that's kind of killing all the scientist jobs. Like I said, you said for NOAA, so many people wanted to. I know so many people who wanted to be with NOAA, and people who were probationary employees, that people I know personally that were working with NOAA, who got cut from that. And I just think that it's insane how much we have to deal with. And then people that are in my class graduating, we're fresh out of school, and then a new president comes in, all the jobs that we were looking for that are already hard to get into from the get go get taken off. And I said I was looking for a job for 6 months, and that was hard. And I was lucky to get one where I was really able to make a difference and make some money. But I know not everybody had that. Like some people are probably just, either working at dive shops like I was doing before, or flipping burgers, or doing whatever the case may be, because the stuff that we're looking for entry level has been either eradicated, or people from higher levels are coming down to do them. We have master's students doing
Mm,
bachelor level jobs, and I think that that's insane.
yeah, and I I did forget to mention that there is one thing I did during COVID in Massachusetts while I was still looking for my job that was free and was very, very quick and easy at building a community. Is I um and this was born out of like a desire. I was like, we were, it's Massachusetts. Everything is super expensive. And so
Hmm.
we were living in like a 1 bedroom apartment. Me, my fiance, our 75-pound dog, and our 25-pound cat. Like, it was a lot. I had to get out of the house. So what I did was I volunteered for the Revere City Food Bank, which got me out of the house 2 days a week to like pack food into boxes, and then again on Wednesday to like deliver them to people across the city, to people who could not, like, weren't healthy enough to like leave, or were like old, or immunocompromised, or staff like the local church where people would long, long lines of people would come and get food boxes from the food bank. Um, Easy, brainless work, but it was like probably my number one keeping me sane activity during that really stressful time. I got to meet people who were like from all walks of life, people who had been in Massachusetts since the Pilgrims landed, to people who had just like moved in from across the world, all ages. It was a great time, and so I recommend. And it's free, right? You obviously don't have to pay money to volunteer for the food bank, so that is like the one thing I would recommend. Find a new community in the place that you just moved to. Go volunteer at a food bank or something like that.
Okay. I want to transition into something else really shortly, but I was wondering about so science communication. As someone who's passionate about science communication, what are like some unconventional or unexpected experiences you've had that have really challenged or inspired you? I mean, like we're on Black Nerds Matter now. This is science communication in itself, but I want to know how that has affected your career and what you love about science communication as well.
That's a good question. So this project that I was working on, the big project that I completed at NOAA, so I left after it was done, uh, was this really cool virtual reality tour of the Mallows Bay Potomac River National Marine Sanctuary. So it's kind of like Google Street View, but if you were on a kayak touring the Ghost Fleet, that and so what we did is we worked with NOAA and with like a contractor, Terrain 360, to make this virtual reality tour of the sanctuary, and we got local community members, and local tribal members to give us like a snippet of context for what people were looking at. So imagine you're on Google Street View, but you're actually in a kayak paddling along, and there's like shipwrecks to your left and to your right. Paddle along, and there's like a little point on your interface. You hit it, and like a soundbite comes up of a man describing his time in the Merchant Mariner's fleet, or a slideshow of the kind of plants you'll see growing on the shipwreck throughout the seasons. That fully encompassing sort of tour of the sanctuary and its associated park, I think, is probably the most unique science communication experience that I worked on. Plus, I had to kind of learn how to code all of that stuff on my own, and kind of build like the website from the ground up with Terrain 360, the organization that helped us make it. So that it was a huge project. It took me like a year and a half to do, and that it's probably that. I think it's published now. I can send you the link later, but that's probably, I'll say that, and then um, probably my master's project that required me to go to China was a study on the most effective methods to communicate science to different groups. And so I did this study on high schoolers in China and their parents, and then the same study on a school in Massachusetts and their parents. And that was and it was also based on like which method of communication is better, a traditional like PowerPoint slideshow or a virtual reality based lesson plan. And like ultimately my research found that they're both very good. Both methods are very good at communicating an idea, so you don't have to do one or the other. But what I learned was how, I guess what I took away was how much the students already kind of knew about big important topics like human caused climate change, um, and ocean acidification, and the ways that we can kind of mitigate those problems. In it, there, there was like a brief moment of my life where I was like actually really hopeful about the future, because those things have already been ingrained in their minds, and so I that I think was probably the most impactful for me. And they're still out there, they're still alive, and they're still probably fighting the good fight. I just, there's other things going on now, I guess.
So you mentioned a bit about working with students. What is some advice that you would impart on Black and Brown students, especially those who may have to think they have to choose between their personality and their profession?
Part of me wants to say that you never ever have to sacrifice your personality in order to advance in your profession. And any situation in which that is forced on you is not one that you should stick around for. That said, times are tough. You need a paycheck and you need to feed yourself. So you and obviously join BIMS so we can give you an outlet to be yourself. But it's kind of like a not very fun option to have to kind of pick and choose your battles. Always be updating your LinkedIn, always be updating your resume, and always be ready to find another option. Um, but when you do find a place where you are like truly safe to be your authentic self, like I was lucky enough to find, you should never ever have to dim, hide, or alter your personality to do your job, because ultimately the skills that you bring are enough to do the job. And like I said before, if you are the exact same person as everybody else, then you're not really going to stand out to go further in your life. So be who you are, bring those skills, and use them to your advantage. That's what I think. I'm. What do I know?
It seems you know a lot, Mr. Master's degree. So I got one more. I think this is probably my last question for you. But since I know we have another diver on the show, I think I need to have a bell to ring every time there's a diver on here because we have so many. But I want to know what are what's some of your favorite things about diving, and where are some of the most scenic locations you've been to? Some of your favorite moments underwater, all that kind of stuff. Because I'm a huge nerd about that.
So this might be a unique answer, but I actually really like when I'm diving. I don't know why, but I really like doing stuff. Like, I really like rolling up a transect or like marking things down on my slate. Like, I like having a job. I don't know why. I can't explain why, but I like just like strolling across this like actually picturesque, beautiful coral reef with like schools of fish around me and like sharks. And I'm like, doing math. Like, I don't know why. I just love doing stuff underwater. Um, Most beautiful places I've ever dove. I mean, so in Panama, on the western side of the country, on the Pacific side of the country, there is a national park called Coiba National Park. Um, and it's like a pretty remote island. While we were staying there, like, you don't have internet, you don't even barely have electricity. Um, it was actually like the worst place to be in early March of 2020, but it's a beautiful place to it has some of the most beautiful dives. Whale sharks will sometimes show up there, so we
Wow.
had a couple of whale sharks visit us on some of our dives. It was absolutely beautiful. So that's probably my number one spot right now. But I will say, slightly more accessible, the Pacific Northwest, the San Juan Islands in Washington. The water is so 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 cold, and for someone who's not dry suit certified like me, who had to wear a wetsuit, I could only stay in that water for like 25 to 30 minutes. But that is some beautiful diving. The water is like crystal clear, the kelp forests, the king crabs, like, it's beautiful stuff, like out of a movie.
That's sweet. I actually empathize with you a ton when it comes to the cold water because diving on the West Coast, there's times I've had people like, "Oh, let's go do a dive while you're here." I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. It's too cold for me. There's so much gear, all these things." But the working underwater part, I agree with you so much because I feel that I see the coolest stuff when I'm working and getting paid to dive versus when I'm paying to dive. When I'm going on a tourist one, I feel like more tourist boats won't ever come
Hmm.
through, and all the cool stuff leaves or is scared off. And when I'm just working somewhere, especially because when you're working, you usually can work in an MPA or somewhere that's protected. There's not a lot of boat traffic and people coming through. You see awesome stuff, just sharks coming by. Like I have like one of my most vivid memories is snorkeling in French Polynesia near Tahiti, and I'm swimming and there's a shark on my left side, a black tip, and I just see it at the corner of my eye. I barely notice it going, and then we both turn our head at the same time and just scare each other. The shark zooms off one way, I zoom off the other way, and it was like it's still my favorite moment diving ever, and it was just snorkeling, but it was just so cool because we were both there and then just coming over the side of a reef and seeing a turtle and everybody's doing the turtle motion and everything. So it's just cool. I love that aspect of it. And I think working while you're diving just gives you, it makes you really appreciate it. You know, it's like your office. You're doing your calculations or writing stuff around a whole bunch of fish, and that's super fun.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mark. I've been waiting to get you on here, and I'm really glad we are able to make it happen. Everybody, three cheers for Mark. Woo! So,
Thank you, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And hey, I'm always happy to come back on, and I'll try and find someone else to come too.
okay. Sounds good. Get Dr. T on here. I've been trying to get her, so that'd be good.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
Sweet. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. You can support the show by sponsoring an episode, buying merchandise, and of course, continue to listen and subscribe on all of your favorite streaming platforms. All of these can be found on our link tree at Black Nerds Matter on Instagram. Also, we're partnered now with the Black Alive podcast network, so you'll be hearing in our new outro and intro about them and how to best support our work and their work, so we can get more listeners to Black podcasts and people understanding what we do and that we're out here trying to spread a good message. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and have a good day. Peace.
Bye.